Hi and welcome to Green Door Gourmet. I'm here in the Culinary Education Center, the Cumberland Cottage, and I have a special guest with me, Lindsey Seegers from the Manna Food Center in Maryland. Thanks for coming.
I am so honored to be here, Richard. So a lot of people love falafel and like to get it when they're going out and think that it must be a complicated food. And the fun thing about it is that it's really easy to make at home, especially with the help of a food processor. And what most people don't like about beans is they feel like it's a lot of work, but you're just throwing these chickpeas, dried chickpeas, into water, letting them hang out overnight and putting them right in here. So you don't have to cook them, they're actually gonna cook when the falafel cooks. So they're in here with onions, with parsley, cilantro, garlic, some ground cumin, and we're just gonna pulse it until everything's a little bit chopped, not too much. Then we're gonna add in some baking powder, and you can do flour. I like to do cornmeal because I think it adds a nice texture, and they don't get as dense. You know how you want them really light and fluffy? So I like to do cornmeal, and if you were gluten-free, then you could, cornmeal would be good too. So we're just kind of holding it until it starts to come together. And you'll know that it's ready when you pick it up and it starts to stick together. So the fun of getting your family involved in cooking is that it means a little less work and pressure for one person. Everybody gets to help out, it gets done faster. And it's also the recipes that I'm making today are ones that you make with your hands, which is just fun. Kids get to get messy, it's allowed in the kitchen. So we're making these into flat discs so that we're gonna get them brown on each side. We're really kind of pressing them together here.
Yeah, and this is where I can get involved too. Is that right?
That looks right.
And then we kind of squeeze it together. Now, as you form these, they're going to be a little bit delicate, but as they sit together, the sugars and starches in the chickpea bind together and essentially glue them together, all the little pieces.
They're high in fiber and protein. And once you're dipping them in tahini or tzatziki, or you could make a yogurt sauce for the kids, it's a fun finger food to pick up and dip, and really wholesome. So we've got our falafel out of the fridge, and frying falafel is really fun, but not on a weeknight. It takes a lot of time. You can only put so many in a pan at once, and it's a big mess.
Yeah.
So a nice way, it's also a little bit healthier too, is when you're preheating the oven to 400, you actually put a baking sheet in there. So these could just be on a plate if you want. If you just had one sheet pan around, you could just put these on a plate while they're in the refrigerator. We're gonna preheat the pan, and then just put some oil on it so they get crispy on both sides in the oven, and they're all done at once. So it makes it much more doable on a weeknight.
Right, and you're not trying to turn them in the pan either, where they can fall apart sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
so
you get that nice, foolproof, and still that nice crispy, crunchy exterior.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I just put a parchment sheet on here after it was already preheated to be safe. And since it's hot, I'm using a brush here, but I'm just gonna put some oil on here so that, it kind of mimics frying. We get them brown and crispy on both the top and the bottom. And
so we're gonna put a little oil on top of these
exactly,
as well?
Exactly. And now you can see coming out of the fridge, they hold together a little easier. A spatula might be a little safer to do this because the pan's hot. Yes. So it's up to you. So I'm using my hands here, but a spatula's a good idea so you make sure that you don't burn your hands on the hot pan. You gotta be careful. All right, so we've oiled the tops and bottoms. We're gonna carefully handle this hot pan and put it right in the oven until they're crispy on both sides.
And which rack do you recommend?
I would put it on the top.
Okay.
So that it's closer to the heat, and we make sure we get it nice and crispy to mimic that frying.
So now we've got these out of the oven. They look beautiful, crisp and brown on that bottom side, and then lightly golden on the top. What are you gonna serve it with, Lindsey?
So we took the quinoa that we made earlier, and to kind of keep with some Middle Eastern flavors, I just put a little bit of grated carrot in there. It's always nice adding some grated vegetables to a grain like to rice or quinoa as a way to get kids and get your family to eat more vegetables. All I did was just a little bit of lemon juice and olive oil, and I put in some dates. Dried fruit is a really nice way with grains to add some sweetness and add some texture. Then I took that, Swiss chard, sauteed the stems in a really garlicky olive oil with a little bit of chili flakes in there. So they're not spicy, but just have a lot of flavor. So it's a nice way to add flavor into all the parts of the greens by flavoring the oil before you cook it. And then these pan-fried falafel turned out really well, and they just hung out in the oven for about 20 minutes. We didn't have to flip them, and they look beautiful.
Yeah, I have some tahini sauce to finish that up, but I really love the combination of dates with the Swiss chard. I think it's a really great pairing. And then the carrot and date and falafel all together really keeps in like a Middle Eastern theme.
Yeah.
Really delicious, and so family style.
Absolutely. So this is a really affordable meal that can stretch to feed the whole family and even have leftovers for lunch the next day.